Good morning, Chad. I have a confession to make, but I need you to promise to hear me out before you immediately label me a turncoat. I'm generally anti-Britain, with their silly voices and the way they put beans on toast and their incredulous amounts of knife violence. Hey, just don't look at that. That being said, I don't like to admit when they do anything right. So when I share my truth, I need you to know I'm not taking the piss. I assure you, the piss is not being taken right now. All right, here goes. I really like the UK's comedy panel shows, and I think you will too. If you've not had the pleasure of running into one of these programs on the telly, a comedy panel show is just a group of comedians doing a thing. Most of the shows feature a host moderating two teams that sometimes have a recurring captain, and the teams of comedians just do or compete in whatever the format of the show is. I know it sounds vague, but there are a bunch of different varieties. You've got quiz shows and game shows, and sometimes it's just a bunch of Brits having a chat. The beauty of these shows is that the format doesn't really matter. A lot of them are technically competitions, but they're really just an excuse for comedians and celebrities to banter and riff off each other and just be funny.
Are you a fan of word games?
To be honest, Jimmy, I don't think that's any of your business.
There are a lot of panel shows, but here's some of my favorites that have made me had a proper laugh. 8 out of 10 Cats Says Countdown, or if you prefer, 8 out of 10 Cats Says Countdown for short, is a game show where comedians either have to find the longest word in a random pool of letters or do maths with a random pool of numbers. I know this concept sounds so boring, but it's really funny because of the way the comedians interact with the game. The game always starts with an introduction to the contestants and them sharing their mascot for the game, which is just an excuse for some prop comedy.
We buy anycanalboat.com. We put the can into canal and the anal boat into canal boat.
Between rounds of the game, there's lots of banter. The panel will make fun of each other, or every now and then a comedian like Joe Wilkinson will come on and share the most unhinged bit.
Don't have an erection.
I love comedians like Joe Wilkinson, but the late Sean Locke, who is one of the recurring captains, is one of the best comedians from this show. Sean had a very dry style of humor, and I just love the way he's so matter-of-factly committed to a bit, no matter how silly or dumb it was.
I won't spit on you when we're having sex tonight.
Sean Locke is easily one of my favorite comedians I learned about while watching these shows.
That kind of thing.
That's a challenging wank.
Would I Lie to You is one of the more simple premise shows. A person from either team will read out a card that has some sort of weird fact or story about them on it, and then the other team has a chance to ask questions to try and figure out if what they heard is true or not. Jimmy Fallon actually has a segment on his show called True Confessions that's literally just this show. There's just something really endearing and fun about hearing somebody share embarrassing stories.
The D in my name stands for delicious.
The show gives a vibe of like a group of friends that sat down and started sharing stories with each other. Except instead of a group of regular friends, it's a bunch of professional comedians that have really good banter.
How many books are you reading at the same time?
7 or 8.
David, how many books does Victoria read at the same time?
Oh, I'd put it between 6 and 9.
Would I Lie to You is home to the quickest witted comedian I've ever seen in team captain Lee Mack. The entirety of the show is unscripted. The celebrities coming on have no idea what they're going to be seeing when they flip over a card. They've got no time to prep. They read their card and are immediately interrogated by the other team. As you can imagine, this is quite daunting, and the comedians have different strategies for coping and stalling to try to buy themselves some time.
Can I first of all say my memories of this are a bit sketchy? They're more like just fingerprints on an abandoned handrail.
Lee Mack is so quick on his feet. He just jumps straight into every story as if he's got every single detail figured out. And he's not just good telling stories. A comedian will say something and his response is so quick, you'd think he's got a script in front of him. He's so quick that a different comedian that's been on the show said the producers have to nerf Lee Mack so people don't think the show is scripted.
Occasionally you have to put in a breath of air in between the setup and him coming back with an answer because you think there's absolutely no way he came up with that quickly.
I adore this style of comedy, and I genuinely wish to one day be as quick on my feet as he is.
What sort of tree was it, Lee?
It was a big one.
You know, trees have names, don't they? Was
Brian
it
the
an
big
oak
tree.
or a bird?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention Bob Mortimer, another one of my favorite comedians from the show. I highly recommend going on YouTube and finding the montages of Bob on Would I Lie to You. They're some of my favorite comedy bits ever.
Gary Cheeseman was a big lad. Yeah, a very big head. Sniper's dream, they used to call it.
While I love the other shows, my favorite British show of all time is Taskmaster, and it's probably the most unique panel show. Every other panel show has different guests every episode, takes place entirely in front of the audience, and there are usually a couple of teams. In Taskmaster, the guests are on the show for 10 episodes, most of the content is filmed away from the audience, and everyone is competing by themselves. The way that Taskmaster works is over the course of a few weeks, contestants will show up to the Taskmaster house, or sometimes they have an offsite location. They complete a variety of different challenges, or what the show calls tasks. The tasks are set by Taskmaster Greg Davies, and they're officiated by his assistant Alex Horn. At the end of the week, they all come together to see the results of the tasks, and they're shared with the live audience and the Taskmaster himself. Prior to the live show, the contestants and the audience and the Taskmaster have no idea how the tasks went, so everything that happens at the live show is everyone's genuine reaction.
It was 1 hour 40.
Taskmaster works for multiple reasons. The tasks are usually insane and basically built to make the comedians look stupid. They're so well put together and thought out that you'd expect them to be the reason the show works. But what actually makes the show special is how the comedians generally fully buy into the show. Not only are they trying their best, but they earnestly defend themselves and their sometimes pathetic attempts to the Taskmaster. Not everybody buys in. Occasionally you get a comedian that does the bare minimum, but they're still professional comedians who are funny.
It's almost as if you don't care about it.
While I do still love these contestants like Fatia from season 19,
Failure all round. At least we all got to hear Fatia call a duck bruv.
it's the absolute best when the comedians do try their hardest because it can only end in one of two ways. Either they're good at the task, which is fun to watch because it's impressive when someone finds a loophole or just nails a challenge, or their attempt is horrific and they get brutally mocked by the Taskmaster and every comedian present.
Never in the history of the whole show have I felt contempt for all of them.
I think humans just have this burning desire to see somebody try their best and fail spectacularly. That's the whole reason my grandma watched Deal or No Deal. I have very fond and vivid memories of watching my grandma laugh so hard at somebody on the show because they turned down life-changing money thinking they had the $1 million case, only to reveal they had the $5 one. Taskmaster is one of my favorite shows ever, and I don't think my words alone can do it justice. So if you're only gonna watch one show from this video, let it be Taskmaster.
They're absolute wrong-uns, prawns. I'm just writing down prawns are wrong-uns.
Luckily for us, they participate in the incredibly based practice of putting the entirety of every series of the show on YouTube so you can check it out for yourself. My recommendations are series 14 or series 16, but I don't think you can go wrong with any of them.
Can I ask questions?
You can ask me one.
Are you a child of divorce?
With my favorite bits of telly coming from these British shows, I find myself wondering, why can't we get this right in America? There have been multiple attempts at bringing panel shows to the US and they just fail every single time. The biggest disappointment for me was that Alex Horn, the guy that created Taskmaster in the UK, he came to the US to do an American version of the show and it was so bad. For so many reasons, it's hard to figure out the main culprit. Many people who have been at it for longer than me and are smarter than me have tried to solve why these shows don't work, and they can't figure it out. One guess is that the American shows lose the lighthearted nature and the whimsy of the British shows. All of the panel shows I talked about are technically competitions, and while most of the comedians on them seem to be trying their best, there's still an air of whimsy to all of them.
I take this game very seriously.
You need to calm down. Think of what Mum would say.
Everyone's just on the show to make people laugh, but in the American versions, they take the competition way too seriously. So instead of being lighthearted, the banter kind of comes across as mean-spirited.
I freaking rule this game, bitch!
Another thought is that we just prefer other formats for our comedy, like late night shows or sketch comedy shows. But it seems to me that the most commonly shared idea is that American humor is just different from British humor. American humor seems to be more obvious and over the top, whereas British humor is more dry and subtle. It's fancy. Look at the differences between the two bosses in the Office shows. David Brent is kind of subdued and subtle. The main joke with him is just that he's the worst. Whereas Michael Scott is boisterous and over the top, and the joke with him is he's always pushing things way too far.
You have no idea the physical toll the 3 vasectomies have on a person.
I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but you can kind of also see this difference in the side characters in the show. In the UK Office, almost everyone could be a real person, somebody that you know. But in the US Office, every character ends up as a caricature of themselves by the end of the show.
This is a new food for me. How else should I eat it?
All of these reasons might be valid as to why they haven't worked, or they might not be. But if there was ever a time to try to bring panel shows to the US again, I think it's right now. Late night talk shows, which have previously ruled American TV, have seen a really steep dip in popularity. People will probably be looking for a replacement soon, so they may be open to comedy panel shows now more than ever. I've got multiple reasons for thinking this, one of them being right now there's a comedy panel show that's not doing too bad. Also, Taskmaster had a huge spike in popularity after their failed American version, so now they might be ready to take what they learned and try again. Also, the YouTube channel Dropout has had an incredible amount of success to the point that they have their own streaming service, and a lot of their most popular series like Game Changer and Make Some Noise are basically comedy panel shows.
All the daddies at home, you may in 3, 2, 1.
Also, another thing that could help comedy panel shows take off is that they naturally lend themselves to short form content. Since the episodes don't have a structure or a plot to follow, you can easily take clips and have them go viral. I mean, this is basically Dropout's business model. Also, people will always love watching their favorite comedians and celebrities do things outside of movies and TV shows. Just look at the popularities of podcasts and shows like Hot Ones and Chicken Shop Date. People want to see more content of the people they like doing things, so a comedy panel show is the perfect excuse to get a mix of celebrities you'd never expect. I just think there's so much potential for good TV and funny moments, but I guess if previous adaptations have shown anything, there's probably also a lot of potential for bad in it. Even if the US never figures out the formula to make panel shows work here, I can always watch the UK stuff. And somehow if this video finds its way to Alex Horn and you're looking for somebody to be the beta sidekick who's secretly in love with the Taskmaster for a rebooted American version of the show, hit my line. Alright, see ya.